Hey Mike, so what I want to do here is the debrief of your of our one-on-one session that I promised you the other day. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a quick kind of run through of all four of the lifts, take a look at the video of your top set, and just brush over what were the major kind of the major points that I was trying to drive home to you on the platform. So let's take a look at your squat first. So right away out of the rack, I don't think we really adjusted anything with your grip. Throughout the day, I think your grip looked pretty good. But I did have to cue you a number of times to squeeze your chest up in the rack or stick your chest out in the rack. So make sure that's an active part of getting set up in the rack, is sticking your chest out. And you're doing that here pretty well as I cue you to do it. So you remember your stance, we took in slightly from the stance that you were using. So we slightly narrowed your stance. We used a slightly more toe forward position. Like I said, that's going to feel a lot better on your adductor than the wider, more toes out stance that was kind of hurting you before. So let's watch this set. So this first rep was really the only rep that you got real upright on, and the rest you bent over pretty well and did much better job setting your back angle on the way down. And if you notice the difference between that first rep and the rest of the reps, the first rep the back angle had to kind of adjust on the way up, and the rest of these reps here the back angle stays nice and stays pretty constant out of the hole. And I actually have a screenshot here just so you can see the comparison of rep 1 and one of the subsequent reps. So just take a look at these here. This rep on the left here is the first rep. So you can see that your torso angle is a lot more upright. Your knee position is substantially more forward. And this squat's actually a little bit high because of this. Usually if you squat a little bit too upright and your knees get too far forward, it kind of gives you a false sense of depth before you've actually reached there because your knee angle is a little bit more closed. So compare this to the correct rep on the right here. Back angle is more horizontal, chest is more down. Notice the knee is just slightly in front of the toe, not like 5 inches in front of your toe. And your depth is substantially better on this rep. So this is what we want your bottom position to look like on every single rep that you do. And I think this was basically the major, as you probably remember, this was the major thing that we were hammering on in your squat, was just bending over on the way down. You did a pretty nice job with everything else. So if you just keep that in mind, I think you're in pretty good shape there. So moving on from your squats, let's take a look at your presses. So your presses, I think you said you were previously using a wider grip. So remember, the correct grip is going to be the edge of the inside of your hand, right on the edge of the smooth and the knurl. And to get the correct forearm position, like you can see your forearms are pretty nice and vertical here, you just have to cue yourself to squeeze your elbows in or cue tight armpits to make sure that start position is tight enough and that you have the correct elbow and forearm position. So that was the biggest thing with the setup. And other than that, you just remind yourself to pull the bar back under your chin at the start so you're not starting like an extra 3 or 4 inches away from your shoulder. And you do that pretty well on this set, so we'll take a look and watch you do the set. So you squeeze your quads and abs super hard at the start, and you initiate the press by punching your hips forward and getting that initial bounce of the bar. You remember the timing is dip press, so the bar dips down and then you press it out of the dip, and you did a pretty damn nice job here of reproducing that every rep. There wasn't really any other issues there, so I think your presses look good. You keep them exactly like that. All right, so your deadlifts here. So your deadlifts, I think we adjusted your stance a little bit. I think you were just a little bit narrower than I had you. I think we moved out maybe like an inch or two. It wasn't too big of an adjustment. Other than that, I think you did a pretty consistent job of the setup. I think you knew your 5 steps pretty well already coming in. I don't think I even had to cue you much on that. The only thing you really needed cued on when the weight got heavy was completely setting your low back, and you can kind of watch that as the set goes on here. Your first rep is perfect. Let me go back to the first rep here. So your first rep is perfect. Your entire back is completely locked in extension all the way from your upper back down to your lower back. And you can see your low back's nice and flat here. So it's a perfect first rep. Rep 2, you set your upper back pretty well, but your low back, you can see there's just a little more curve down here to your low back, and you just didn't quite finish setting your low back on that rep. It's a fairly subtle difference between the first and second rep, but you need to remember to squeeze all the way down to your low back every single rep, especially when you have that 4-inch belt on, and especially when the weight gets heavy. That should be the primary thing in your head, is getting completely tight. And you got a lot tighter on this rep. You can see your low back's a lot flatter. I think you rocked back a little bit too far, because we can see your shoulders are kind of behind the bar now, and they'll probably readjust. Yeah, see how they readjusted a little bit off the floor? But you did get your low back flatter. You just have to do the same thing there while still staying in the middle of your foot and keeping your hips in place. And I think you were a little bit tired and fatigued at this point too. We had done a lot of squats, and we did a lot of warm-up reps with the deadlift going up to this. So yeah, these are not bad. They're just a little soft in the low back. And if you fix that, there's some pretty good-looking deadlifts. Because other than that, they move pretty straight off the floor. We'll watch your last rep here. So yeah, you can see just not quite. You're not fully extended in your low back. Excuse me. So, and we actually did not get a video of your bench press. But I think you did a pretty nice job with your bench press. I believe we adjusted your grip in slightly, but I'm sure you probably remember exactly where we adjusted it into. And I just made a couple of notes about your bench press here. The primary thing I know that we were working on was you pinching your shoulder blades, retracting your shoulder blades together, and squeezing your chest up. Those were the 2 primary things that we were really hammering on with you. And if you ever lose that position throughout the set, you just have to reset yourself before the next rep. Otherwise, you make it a lot less stable and a lot harder on yourself. So you just cue big chest, shoulders back, every single rep before you descend. Other than that, yeah, I mean, I think you're in pretty good shape. And yep, I don't have any other notes here, so hopefully this helps kind of jog your memory, and seeing a couple of videos of your other lifts should give you a better idea on what they look like. And I look forward to working with you again soon. Thanks, Mike.